You know, the very system that gave us incredible things like iPhones and the ability to fly across the world, it's the same system that's pushing our planet towards instability. It's really the central paradox of our time. The engine that creates so much of our wealth is also the engine of our potential destruction.
And that brings us to the core question of this whole explainer. Is capitalism itself the problem? Or is it maybe a super powerful tool that we've just been, well, using all wrong? Let's dive in, because the answer, whichever way it goes, has massive implications for all of us.
Okay, to really get a handle on the challenge we're facing, you have to start with the numbers. And honestly, they are staggering. In 2023, we pumped 51.8 gigatons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. That's not just some big number on a slide, it's a record. And it's still going up.
And look, this isn't some far-off problem for our grandkids to deal with. The bill is coming due right now. I mean, the US alone has faced over $1 trillion in damages in just the last 6 years from major weather disasters. Climate change isn't a future cost, it's an active, ongoing wealth destruction machine, and it's running today.
So when you see numbers like that, it's really easy to get trapped in this simple, capitalism, yes or no kind of debate. But that misses the point entirely. Capitalism isn't one single thing. It operates based on rules that we write. So the real debate, the more useful one, is about what those rules should be.
So before we dive any deeper, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When we say capitalism, what do we actually mean?
At its core, it really boils down to three main pillars. You've got private ownership of things like factories or, solar farms. Then you have markets that use prices to decide where resources go. And finally, there's this fundamental, relentless focus on profit and growth as the main way we measure success.
But, and this is so important, there isn't just one flavor of capitalism. The super deregulated model you see in the US is completely different from the social democratic systems in Nordic countries, or the state-led version that you see in China. This variety proves the debate isn't really about whether we have capitalism, but which kind we choose to build.
All right, now let's look at the economic choice we're facing. Because when you strip everything else away, it really comes down to a pretty brutal calculation of costs. The economic case is just wow. It's stark. Doing nothing is projected to cause a staggering 19% drop in global income by the middle of the century. But the cost of acting? It would barely even make a dent in our projected GDP growth. The math is brutal, for sure, but it is crystal clear. Fixing this problem is vastly cheaper than ignoring it.
Now, of course, cheaper doesn't mean cheap. The investment we need is massive. We're talking about $4.5 trillion a year, every year, on clean energy by 2030. That's a huge number, and it really sets the stage for the big debate. Can our current system actually deliver that? Can it pull this off?
And this leads us straight into the first major argument, the case for what a lot of people are calling green capitalism. This is the optimistic view, right? The idea that we can harness the system's best features, competition, profit, innovation, and point them directly at saving the planet. A key piece of evidence for this is a concept called decoupling, and you can see it right here. Take the UK, for example. Since 1990, its economy has grown substantially, while at the same time, its CO2 emissions have fallen a lot. This shows that it's absolutely possible to grow wealth without growing pollution.
So how do you make that happen? Well, with one of capitalism's favorite tools, putting a price on what you don't want. I mean, check this out. A decade ago, only 7% of global emissions had a price tag on them. Today, that number has quadrupled to 28%. It's a huge sign that the rules are being rewritten to make pollution costly.
And guess what? The system responds. Capitalism is brilliant at chasing profit in new technologies. And the result? More people are now employed in clean energy than in fossil fuels. That's not just an environmental shift, folks. It's a massive economic one, and it's creating a powerful new engine for jobs and growth.
Okay, but that's only one side of the story. The counter-argument is that the system isn't just poorly calibrated, it's that the problem is structurally, fundamentally baked right in.
A huge part of this critique is that the climate crisis isn't caused by humanity in general, but by a very specific slice of it. I mean, look at this. The richest 10% of the world's population are responsible for half of all emissions. That's not an accident. It's a feature of how our global economy is designed.
So critics point to three deep structural flaws. First, this addiction to endless growth on a planet that is, finite.
Second, a total failure to price in long-term environmental damage, what economists call externalities. And third, and this is a big one, political capture. The people who profit most from the way things are have the influence to prevent real change.
You know, this isn't just about economics and politics. It's also about psychology. We have to understand our own minds to see why this problem is so uniquely difficult for us as human beings to solve.
It really just boils down to this. Our brains are hardwired for the here and now. We feel the immediate pain of a higher gas price far, far more than we feel the abstract future benefit of a stable climate. And capitalism, with its focus on short-term returns, often just amplifies this natural human bias.
Okay, so we've seen the arguments for and against. We've seen the optimistic case and the pessimistic one. So where does that leave us? What could a path forward actually look like?
Well, one vision tries to combine the best of both arguments. It's about keeping the market's dynamism, but setting new, non-negotiable rules. So first, hard, legally binding limits on pollution. Second, prices that reflect the true cost of environmental damage. Third, a strong safety net to protect workers through this big transition. And finally, rules that limit the power of vested interests to block all this change.
So let's be crystal clear. Under today's rules, our global economic system is not sustainable, period. And the most important takeaway is this. The laws of physics don't care about our economic theories. Reality will always have the last word.
So, can capitalism be sustainable? Perhaps, but it's not going to happen on its own. The real battle isn't about getting rid of markets. It's a political fight over who gets to write their rules, and ultimately, whose future those rules are designed to protect.